Hi, everybody. I'm Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer here at the Audioactive Group at Cumulus Media and Westwood One. And today we're asking, what is the current state of audio consumption among American voters? With midterm activity already underway, we turn to Edison's gold standard share of ear to understand the current state of audio listening among registered voters. Share of ear is the gold standard because it's been running for the last 11 years. 4,000 Americans are surveyed each and every year. The data gets released on a quarterly rolling average, and it quantifies all of the audio that consumers are exposed to, both ad-supported and non-ad supported, and it examines all of the various platforms. Edison is a famous brand in the world of audio. Their infinite dial study has been reporting on the state of audio exposure for almost 30 years. So, what are the key takeaways for campaigns on the current state of audio? Well, first of all, AM/FM remains the centerpiece of audio with a whopping 64 share of all ad-supported audio among registered voters. And then if you look at among independents, Republicans, and Democrats, that share holds very strongly in the 62 to 65% range for AM/FM radio. But what we also see is a major disconnect between advertiser perception and the realities of actual audio listening. Marketers and media agencies dramatically underestimate radio listening shares and way overestimate time spent in audiences to Pandora and Spotify. Interestingly, it is music formats on AM/FM radio that attract the dominant share of voters' time. And in-car is a crucial location of listening for voters. It's a wonderful way to reach a mass reach of voters that have no access to video or digital platforms because the majority of American commutes are one person in the car, and they literally don't have access to any of those digital platforms when they're driving. And most importantly, you cannot check the box on audio without AM/FM radio. A digital audio buy misses the vast majority of Americans, in fact, 70%. So only a third are reached by digital audio. When you bring AM/FM in, the combined net reach surges to 73%. So recently, the CPMs, as demand is growing across all of the YouTube platforms, has been soaring. And as you can see, the expected and forecasted CPMs are getting very, very expensive, even this early in the year. So radio is a wonderful opportunity because it does not approach or get the kinds of sellouts that you might see with YouTube, and the CPMs are far more affordable than what you would find in digital formats. So to understand the perception versus reality of audio time use, we turn to advertiser perceptions, and they are the leading firm that captures sentiment among marketers and media agencies. A recent study conducted in August of 2025 surveyed perceived audio audiences among 302 national marketers and media agencies, and that was compared to the Edison reality of actual consumer use of audio. So marketers and media agencies perceive that the combination of Pandora and Spotify dramatically outperforms in share terrestrial radio by a 41 share to a 26 share. That's the perception. Here's the reality. AM/FM doesn't have a 26 share, it has a 63. Pandora doesn't have a 16 share, it really has a 5. Spotify doesn't have a 25 share, it has a 4. So marketers underestimate radio audience shares and dramatically overestimate digital audio shares. So let's zoom in now on registered voters. Here we see from Edison share of ear among registered voters. AM/FM has a dominant 64 share of ad-supported audio. Number two is podcast at a 21, and then everyone else is in the mid to low single digits. Let's take a look at among voter segments, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. We can see that generally the shares are pretty consistent across these various segments. Republicans a little bit more radio listening oriented, but by and by, these are very consistent shares to ad supported audio among these various targets. Now, historically, campaigns love to put their ads in spoken word, news, talk, etc. But interestingly, it is music formats where you can find the vast majority of AM/FM radio listening. So overall, 70% of total radio tuning minutes among registered voters goes to music formats. Now, if you look at Democrats versus Republicans, you see a little bit more of the music formats for Democrats, and for Republicans, there's a little bit more time spent with spoken word. But still, there is a huge opportunity for campaigns to get a tremendous share of voice among AM/FM radio music formats. Now, let's take a look at share of time spent by location. And what you'll see, to reach voters, all roads lead to AM/FM radio. So overall, among registered voters, 46% of all radio time spent in America goes to the car, 40% at home. Interestingly, if you're targeting Republicans, the car is even more important overall, with nearly half of all radio listening occurring in car, but independents very close at 46%, and Democrats in-car represents 42% of total radio time spent. Now, can you check the box on audio without AM/FM radio? Absolutely not. In a typical day in America, only 1/3 are reached by the net of podcasts, Spotify, and Pandora. So you'll basically miss 70% of America right off the bat if you just are focusing on digital audio. Now, AM/FM by itself is literally double in reach of digital audio. So let's do a little reach accumulation exercise across the left of your screen, starting with Spotify. In a typical day, reaches just 6% of Americans. When you bring in Pandora, take out the duplication, you're now up to about 12% of Americans reach. Very small reach with the music streamers. But when you bring in podcasts, the reach definitely jumps. It just triples impressively to 33% for the net reach of podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. But look what happens when you bring AM/FM radio in. That is a massive surge of incremental reach, going from a 33 reach to a 73 reach, reaching literally 3 out of 4 Americans in a typical day. You get a teeny bit more reach when you bring in the ad-supported SiriusXM satellite channels. Now, when you look at location of listening, what you discover is the home is where most digital audio time spent occurs. But it's in the car where AM/FM radio really excels. So regardless of the digital platform, whether it's podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, you can see over just around 60% of all minutes spent occurs at home. Obviously, radio is the queen of the road. And when folks are in the car, they cannot be accessing digital or video platforms. So you really have this massive reach that is exclusive and can't be reached by any other medium. Over the last decade, the proportion of US radio listening that occurs in car has surged. 10 years ago, about 42% of total radio listening occurred in the car. That has now jumped up to 53%. We did have a little bit of a 2-year step back during the pandemic with shelter at home, but it has roared back. And that proportional increase is a 25% increase in the proportion of American radio listening happening in car. And that is a massive voter exclusive reach. So in the car, if you look at all of the time spent to ad supported platforms, among registered voters, AM/FM has a stunning 80 share, literally 8 out of 10 minutes in the car to ad supported platforms goes to AM/FM radio. And after that, everyone is in the low to mid single digits. And as you look across the voter targets, very consistent for Democrats, independents, and Republicans. A little bit more podcast listening among the Democrats versus Republicans, but all in all, the way to get voters is get them in the car, get them on the music formats, and you have this huge exclusive audience and a massive ad supported share. So the key takeaways for political campaigns among voters, AM/FM radio remains the centerpiece of American voter reach and share. AM/FM has a 64 share among registered voters of ad-supported audio, and that share is very consistent across the political segments. The big imbalance, so to speak, is the perception reality balance, where marketers and media agencies dramatically underestimate radio listening shares and dramatically overestimate shares with digital audio. Music formats are a huge opportunity for campaigns that attract a very significant share of voter radio time spent. In-car is an awesome platform and an exclusive platform to reach consumers not exposed to any digital media. And you can't check the box on audio without AM/FM radio. You'll miss most of America with a digital audio buy. You bring radio in, you're up to a 73 daily reach among registered voters. The Audio Active Group here at Cumulus Media in Westwood One is a full-service national audio brand advisory. We conduct a lot of measurement for our clients, whether it's brand lift, search and site attribution, sales effect, and we do a tremendous amount of creative pre-testing, since creative is the most significant driver of sales effect. Each and every week, we publish a new audio insight and study. You can find it on our blog at cumulusmedia.com or westwood1.com. And when you're there, sign up to get our weekly audio case study sent directly to your email box. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share the very latest on the state of audio consumption among registered voters. Thanks so much.